What is going on, everybody? TH back again with another video, and today I'm here to talk about my Week 16 NFL Power Rankings. A really fun weekend of football. I love this time of year where you're seeing games on Saturday all day. Then you got Sunday, and this upcoming week's a little different because it's basically Saturdays are Sunday, and then we got 3 games all day Sunday. So going to be a fun upcoming weekend, which on that point, I will not have a video out this Saturday. I do apologize. I was planning on doing maybe my first position rankings or another mock draft, but hey, it's Christmas Eve and Christmas this weekend, so I'm going to spend time with my family, make sure I'm giving them the love and attention they feel they deserve. So I want to do that. Also want to wish you a happy holidays. So hopefully this time of the year brings you some peace and some good times, and hopefully you get to see those you haven't seen in a while. So anyways, all that aside, let's jump right into it. Start with the Houston Texans sticking at 32, and then for that matter, the Bears stay at 31. Hey, these two teams both battled tough against, some of the best teams in the league, right? Like the two teams they played, maybe make up, 2/3 of my top 3. So, they battled tough, but, the Texans just aren't ready to win games. They're not in a position to win games like this against the Chiefs. They're not really ready to steal it away. But this 2-quarterback system that Lovie Smith is implementing has been really kind of interesting. So we'll have to see what comes of it, but the Texans just aren't as good of a football team. Battle tough. Hey, that's cool. The Bears kind of the same deal, against the Eagles, but Justin Fields continues to be kind of the Superman of this offense. Nearly had that insane rushing touchdown. My jaw was down on the floor watching that, but steps out at the 9 or the 11 or whatever it was. But they go as he goes, right? So I'm really excited to see this next offseason when replenish the defense, younger players get another year older, maybe add one more wide receiver, patch up the offensive line just a smidge. I'd be really interested to see where this team is going. Let me get the Panthers. They lose to the Steelers. They're down 2 spots. This team's not very good, right? Sam Darnold, this is just kind of who we thought they were. And, run a draw on 3rd and goal from the 8, Ben McAdoo, just back at his, primal ways. So, it's just not a good football team. So they're at 30. Broncos, they get a win, so they're up a spot. Congratulations, Denver fans. You beat the Cardinals when, Colt McCoy leaves this game pretty early. So taking down the Cardinals' 3rd-string quarterback, not necessarily the biggest achievement, but hey, win's a win. They're up a spot. Rams down 2 spots. They flip places with the Raiders. The Rams, that it's really disappointing. That Monday night game felt like it could have been a fun one, but Rams offense just never really got into rhythm. And I give a ton of credit to Green Bay and their defense. I think, Joe Barry put together a great game plan, really disrupted a lot of what the Rams were trying to do. But yeah, it kind of leaves a sour taste in your mouth considering, the Thursday before, Baker Mayfield ends on such a high note. You wanted to see more of that continue, but not quite the case. So they're short on, obviously they're not playing with their, week 1 starting quarterback. They're, kind of depleted at wide receiver. The offensive line's a mess. All that was evident on Monday night. Let me get the Falcons. They're going to stay here at 27. Yeah, they lost, but I still, Falcons Rams. I think I'd take the Falcons to win that one. Maybe that could go either way. But Desmond Ridder did look bad. So, there is an argument to be made like, hey, Baker Mayfield may not have looked great, but he is better than Desmond Ridder. But, hey, first career start, sometimes it goes really, really well. Sometimes it looks like that. And what I am interested to see is that, hey, if you're in, the conference championships, or you're in your fantasy Super Bowl, maybe it's a 2-week format. Hey, if you got Drake London, that dude looks like his target share is about to be through the moon. Desmond Ridder felt like every time I was watching this game, Desmond Ridder was trying to find 5. So, London fantasy owners, if you're still alive in the playoffs, congratulations, you might have just been, handed a wide receiver 1 with this QB change. So we'll have to wait and see. And also you get the London fumble. That's a backbreaker. So, young team with young players making young mistakes. Okay. Yeah, fine. They stay at 27. Raiders up 2 spots. And, one, I got to say, I'm going to talk about the Patriots later on, but I'm so sorry, Mac Jones, but I had to use this picture. I had to. Oh my God, what was that final play? There's a lot you could talk about in this game. You have that Raiders touchdown that, probably shouldn't have been a touchdown, right? That it kind of leads to the tie game. And then, that final play unfolds. I get the draw, take it to halftime. Sure, you want to do that instead of the knee, get Ramondre Stevenson some more garbage yards. Okay, fine. But then, laterals to Jacoby Myers. And then, God bless, I feel really bad for Jacoby Myers. Because, in the grand scheme of things, he plays a sport. He plays a game, right? It's not like he, left the oven on and his house burned down and, there goes everything he's ever worked for in his life. He's catching a whole lot of steam. Did he make a bad mistake? Yes. But in the grand scheme of things, let's remember this is a game. But holy shit, what a bad decision that was. That was terrible. And then found the wrong Jones, right? Chandler gets to the fumble recovery, and Mac Jones is just immortalized, buried 6 feet under by Chandler Jones. It just literally put him in a coffin, and we could have called that game. But then Chandler Jones obviously runs it in. So, the Raiders definitely got some fortuitous luck with that touchdown, and then that final play. So, took a fair amount to go right, but nonetheless, hey, a win is a win. They're up 2 spots. Cardinals down a handful of spots. We'll have to wait and see, what this Colt McCoy injury ends up being, but I mean, this is just, they're not a good football team, right? Like, I mean, this is what I've been saying all year. Like, the secondary is not great. The pass rush is, lacking, a game wrecker. And when you don't have Kyler Murray, kind of doing similar to what Justin Fields is doing for Chicago, like when you don't have that Superman, the man with the S on his chest, kind of making the offense go, it can be rough. And, DeAndre Hopkins is a stud, but there's really only so much he can do when you're talking about, third string quarterbacks coming in and playing games. So, yeah, the Cardinals are just a bad football team. Sorry, Arizona fans. Moving on to the next group of 8, it feels like, I obviously break these up into 4 slides, 8 teams per slide. For whatever reason, the second slide always gives me the hardest time. I don't know why, but I kind of get to that once we get to the Jags at 21. But the Colts, God bless. I mean, I'm going to kind of say the same thing with the Vikings, but it's like, what should I pay attention to? The fact that they were up 33-0 on the team that, number 2 seed in the NFC? Or the fact that they blew that lead? I don't know which one I should pay more attention to. Probably the fact that they lost, right? And they had one of the most historic chokes of all time. And, there is some sweet, irony here that the year the Colts fire Frank Reich, who previously, engineered the greatest comeback and largest comeback in NFL history, down 32 points in the AFC Championship game. He gets fired, and then Jeff Saturday went awesome. I'm sorry, that's mean, but that's just, poetic justice right there. So, yeah, the Colts are a bad football team. Matt Ryan, at this point, I feel bad for the guy. He's blown a 33-point lead, of course, 28-3 in the Super Bowl to the Pats. Guy can't buy a bucket, but yeah, the Colts just aren't a great team. So it was one of those things where everything went so well for Indy the first half, and then a little bit of the third, and then eventually just kind of variance struck, and then the Vikings were such a better team, I guess, within 20, 25 minutes that was left in the game, the fourth quarter being 15, and then how much time was left in the third when the comeback started. That Minnesota was just better than Indianapolis and able to overcome that deficit. So crazy, and there was points in this game where, like the scoop and score fumble they just gave Minnesota possession. Like, not only did Indianapolis blow its lead, but there was a point in the fourth quarter they probably should have been down a touchdown instead of going to overtime and losing on a field goal. So anyways, yeah, this Colts team's bad. Whatever. Embrace it. Get a top 10 pick. Go draft a Levis, a Stroud, or something like that. Steelers up a couple spots. Decent win. They ran the ball well. Mitch Trubisky was pretty clinical. High completion percentage. They didn't ask him to do Herculean type of stuff. And I gotta say, dude, that George Pickens catch in the left sideline. Every week, I feel like I'm gushing over the catches this dude makes, which, I'm not the only one, but, dude, this one was just insane because he didn't jump, didn't leap. He just literally went up and high pointed it and got it right there. Obviously, I'm a little crammed here, but it was just insane. Every week, George Pickens is just something that just baffles me. But, hey, enough from the offense. I'd like to see that offense continue to put some points on the board. Things got a little interesting late. 8-point game, and, the Panthers are trying to have that last drive. And, of course, the 3rd and goal sneak from the 8 or draw from the 8, QB draw. What a call there by Ben McAdoo. But anyways, Pittsburgh survives to get a road win. Anytime you win on the road, that's cool. Now, can Mike Tomlin at 6-8, can he get that winning season? Can he avoid can he go another year without a losing record? Can he push this, it would be the 17th straight season, 16th straight season? Insane. But anyways, on to the Commanders. They're down 2 spots. That game was rough. I was actually at this game. If you didn't hear me talk about that on the Hurry Up Offense last Thursday. New episode coming out this Thursday, of course. It was freaking so cold there. It was insane. But, what an ugly game. And, just honestly, not a whole lot to be happy about for Washington. And it's interesting. I liked Washington to win, and honestly, I liked them to cover, which I know a lot of people were on the Giants plus 4.5, and clearly they were smarter than me. But, I just thought that Washington pass rush, even without Chase Young, I was like, that's the mismatch, right? Like, Adrian Thomas is really good, but, the other 4/5 of that Giants offensive line just ain't up to snuff, I think, with a Jonathan Allen, a Deron Payne, and a Montez Sweat. And I even bet, Jonathan Allen to get a sack in this game, like plus 135 or whatever. And I was like, let's do it. That sounds great to me. They shut him out. And then on the other side, Kayvon Thibodeau took this game over. So, when I thought it was going to be the Giants offensive line that kind of held things back for the New York offense, was actually the Washington offensive line that kind of did that for the Commanders. So, a little weird. Would have liked to see Washington's, obviously, their pass rush make a bigger impact in this one. And then you get the late play kind of conundrum, right? Another quick betting diatribe here, but I bet Terry McLaurin over receptions, over yardage, and then anytime touchdown. Receptions hits, yards hits, and then the rest of this game I'm like sitting there looking at 17, trying to be like, hey, get a touchdown. So I'm like literally watching him on that last drive, and he kind of gestures to the ref, gives him the thumbs up. He's like, hey, am I good? Even moves up a little bit, does it again, and it's like I was watching all that, and I was like, that's weird. And then the flag, so. It still looks like he was off the line, especially when you get the broadcast feed. Like even after he maybe adjusts a little bit, it still looks like he was off. So. I think it was an instance where, you moved, but it just wasn't enough. So that sucks. But that being said, Washington needed a touchdown, a 2-point conversion in 2 plays earlier. Taylor Heineke tried to chuck a pick and somehow the cornerback dropped it. So, this Washington team's not very good. And that's part of the reason I wish I did bet the Giants, right? Because just natural regression, right? Like, Washington's been winning in spite of their quarterback. There's only so long where that statement could be true, right? Like, long are the days of, winning a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer when you have the 2000 Ravens defense, right? Like, I just don't think we're ever going to see that again. So, eventually, it was going to catch up to Washington. I think Heineke did not play very good, especially through the air. I mean, it was rough. So, the Commanders lose a tough one, and that may well have taken them out of the playoffs. We'll see. But then we get to the Jags here at 21, and look after that win, it's easy to get swept up and be like, dude, Jacksonville, they might win the AFC South. And honestly, right now, I think I kind of like them win the AFC South. I got the Titans there at 17, but those two by next week, maybe the week after, easily could flip. I mean, these two teams play week 18, so this could be 8-8. That's the mark, or I guess 9-8. That's the mark to get to once we get to that last week of the season. So that's gonna be fascinating, but. Now it's 5 weeks in a row now where, for the last 5 weeks, 5 of the last 6 weeks where Trevor Lawrence looks like a number 1 overall pick. And my God, he wasn't even playing 100% in this game. But this game kind of played like tale of two halves. And we'll obviously talk about Dallas later on. But, after the first half, I was like, yeah, Dallas got this one. This is over. I had 2 team parlays, but Dallas is one of those 2 layouts. Like, this game's done. Wish I had cashed those out. But, I give a ton of credit to the Jags. The offense never relented. Doug Peterson's doing a great job scheming up some nice plays, generating, open receivers, which, I still don't think that wide receiver room's all that crazy, but they're generating offense. They're engineering it. They're working their way down the field. And then get enough defensive plays. And obviously the pick six to walk it off. It's really a Noah Brown drop to me, but whatever. It's, the Jags capitalize, take it back the other way, and they score the 40-34 home win. So I got to give them credit there. And honestly, if you were asking me right now, I think the Jags win the AFC South over the Titans. So we'll have to wait and see though. We get the Browns at 20. Saturday was such an almost perfect day of football, right? Obviously the 1 o'clock game, biggest comeback in NFL history. Then you get to the 8 o'clock game, and it's like 32-29 AFC East battle. The Bills win the division with the dub. Awesome game. And then there in the middle was this 13-3 snoozer with Tyler Huntley not playing well. We'll talk about the Ravens later on. And then you get 1 touchdown from the Browns offense. And I think Deshaun Watson played better this week, but yeah, man, considering he did take a step forward, they should be putting up a lot more than 13 points because they still run the ball well. They still have a good offensive line. Yeah, there's maybe not an insane amount of wide receiver talent, but Amari Cooper's a 1. Yeah, just yikes. But hey, I do want to give a ton of credit. Joe Woods got that defense playing really good, especially here. Denzel Ward, MJ Emerson. That cornerback room is in specific been really solid over the last handful of weeks. And then once you get to the fourth quarter, Myles Garrett was just taking off the leash, and he about closest one out for the Browns by himself. So things to like about Cleveland. I think their playoff chances are pretty much done, but it's going to be interesting to see what they look like with Deshaun Watson. And if he continues to knock off that rust, what does that offense really fully come to form as? The Saints, they beat the Falcons, but I'm keeping them here at 19. Same reason, that I talked about earlier with Atlanta. It's like, that Falcons team is not very good. Young team, young mistakes, and the Saints capitalized. That game still got interesting. It was 3-point differential, 21-18. So, not the most insane of wins, but, want to give him some credit here. Andy Dalton still playing an okay brand of football. Rashid Shaheed, that dude does nothing but score touchdowns. He's awesome, and first team all conference, name team. So, I like a lot of what they're doing. The defense is solid. Dennis Allen continues to coach that side of the ball okay for the most part this year, and this is one of their better performances this year again against rookie quarterback making his first start. So take it with a grain of salt there, but the Saints played a good brand of football on Sunday, and they got the win for it. So then we get to the Bucs. They're down a spot. This game is really interesting just because I was watching it and Tony Romo was just eyeing over the fact of Tampa Bay using motion, using play action, despite not running the ball well. It's almost like you can still fake it and force a linebacker for a quarter of a second to half a second to think about it. Then it might get him out of place or have him be a step behind on whatever his assignment is. It's almost like that makes total sense. So, I give that's a joke, obviously, for Romo. I think he's one of the best color commentators in the game, but I was like, okay, yeah, they're running an elementary offense. Maybe they graduated middle school here. Let's not crown them or anything. But that being said, yeah, Tampa Bay lost, and it was 34 unanswered at one point. That's since he dropped on the Bucs, which is insane. That Tampa Bay defense continues to be a concern. I think Carlton Davis, for the most part, played a pretty good game, but that secondary was ripped apart. During the middle portion of this game. Not a lot of pass rush either against a team that, the rhetoric around the Bengals almost always is going to be about their offensive line, how they hold up. I think that unit's played better, but, it's like, hey, Tampa, this is a game where, if you want to win it, you're going to have to get some pressure. You're going to have to get, Burrow on his back. You're going to have to, make some plays like that. And they just couldn't. So, I'm interested to see where this offense goes moving forward, especially considering, they got that, strong commanding 1-game lead over the top of the NFC South, where everyone else is 5-9, they're 6-8. So it feels like it's their division. So, can they continue to build upon that progress on the offensive side? More play action, more motion. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, I think both look pretty good this week. So, can Tampa Bay continue to, make that happen? And then, who knows? Maybe this team's a sneaky, they're hosting a playoff game, but maybe they're kind of a sneaky 4 seed. I mean, who knows? That sentence doesn't really make sense because they're still 4 seed and they're hosting a game. But anyways, then we get to the Titans, down 2 spots. I mean, 3-point loss to the Chargers. That game could have been a lot more fun, but it just was kind of not what I was hoping it could be. But, Derrick Henry runs the ball well, but, ultimately, they let up that last drive to Justin Herbert. So, this Titans team kind of feeling like they're kind of coming back down to earth. With a lot of teams we kind of anticipated, like, the Giants were going to regress to the mean, right? Like, and, you can kind of say that for the Jets. I think part of that's the quarterback position. But, these teams that got up to 6 starts, like, insanely hot to open the year. And it was like, yeah, but they're not really that good. We didn't put the Titans in that camp, but, like, now it feels like it's kind of coming into form. Tannehill's only going to get you so far. They only have but so many wide receiver weapons. Like, Henry can be good, and he can run for 5 yards a carry, find the end zone, have 100-plus yards, but that's one piece, and it's the running back. So no offense, but it's one of the smaller pieces. So tough look there for the Titans. Now this AFC South race becomes really interesting. On the top 16 now. Giants up a couple spots. Hey, I think they played a really good game. I mean, I want to give them a ton of credit here. Did not think they would come out with a dub, but their pass rush was, to me, the difference. And Kayvon Thibodeau, best game of his career maybe. And then, just enough offense, right? And like obviously Thibodeau gets the defensive touchdown, the scoop and score. But they moved the chains enough, converted enough third downs. This game, all in all, was not all that pretty. Again, when you're talking about Kayvon Thibodeau kind of being the thing that most captured my eye, yeah, that doesn't say a whole lot about the offense. But unless Brian Daboll continue to do what Brian Daboll does, find ways to win games, and he's literally engineering W's, because there's nothing that the Giants are doing that it's like, yeah, of course, when you have that, you're going to win a bunch of games. It's like, yeah, they are scrapping. I mean, they are digging for anything they could find to win games, and it's been paying off. And, with the win against the Commanders, you look at the Lions, you got Seattle, who's kind of tapering off, and then the Giants, with that win over the Commanders now, and the tie earlier, they have obviously that leg up on Washington. The Giants may have just secured themselves a playoff spot with that win on Sunday night. So we'll have to wait and see. Time will tell. But, give a ton of credit. The Giants to go get that type of win on the road against a division rival, that speaks. Let me get the Packers up a spot. It was great to see Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson on the field at the same time. And if Christian Watson doesn't, fumble the bag on that last possession as somebody who bet Watson anytime touchdown, he would have continued his touchdown streak. Then you get 5 catches, 57 yards from Doubs. It was, because at one point in the year, it was like, hey, Doubs could maybe be that guy. And then it's like, oh, no, Christian Watson's the dude that's going to be that future wide receiver one. Now you got both of them out there. So a good sign of what could potentially come. Kind of like how Tampa Bay, a couple schematic changes on the offensive side. Now it feels like Green Bay's getting healthy. And it's like, okay, I'm not saying you're going to make the playoffs, but you're not ruled out. And now you kind of have as much as you've ever had this season, specifically for Green Bay. For Tampa, it's more so they're just kind of, figuring out how to leverage things that the rest of the NFL is leveraging against defenses. So good on them. But, for Green Bay, it's like, hey, now you got both your top wide receivers back. Rodgers he's saying, don't count us out. The defense looked really, really good. The secondary played really well. You only hold, Baker Mayfield to 111 yards. Now, again, it's Baker Mayfield, second start as a Ram, not a lot of wide receiver talent, but, those things I think you could build upon for the Packers. So this is going to be an interesting team to watch. Let me get the Patriots down a couple spots. Do I need to go back? Here, well, let's go back. Mac Jones. Remember this, Mac Jones? Yeah, they're down a couple spots. So all in all, Ramondre Stevenson played a pretty good game. And if not for that questionable touchdown call, you don't even get that final play. You know what I'm saying? Like, Mac Jones is not buried, in Vegas. So this game definitely should have played out a little differently, but the Patriots didn't go out there and win this game either, right? Like the Raiders kind of hung around, they lingered. So, and also just even that last play, like if you told me the Raiders did that, I was like, dude, Josh McDaniels, what the hell are you doing? But then it's like, nah, that's Bill Belichick on the sideline. Like, I don't think he needs to say anything to players to be like, hey, don't do that. But it's like, man, that feels like it should have been from another team with a way worse coach than Bill Belichick. So really interesting. And, now as the year kind of progresses, it becomes more and more evident that Mac Jones, he didn't play great at a lot of points this season, but it's like, where's the wide receiver talent? What is the sideline, right? Like, Matt Patricia's your OC. need I say more? And then the offensive line's had some, bumps, bruises. They've had to move some things around, just not an ideal situation, right? So I'm starting to buy a little bit more patience for Mac Jones. Seahawks, they're going to stay here at 13. They lost on Thursday Night Football to the 49ers, but that game kind of was what we kind of anticipated. Seattle's run defense is beyond lackluster. They did a good job, at one point it was 21-3, 21-7 or something like that. Didn't give up any more points, which, a little bit of a concern there for San Francisco. But Seattle's defense is just it's gonna keep them from getting to being a potentially sneaky wildcard team, if they even make it, right? Like, now you're questioning that. Geno Smith's taking a step back. Tyler Lockett being hurt, I think, is going to be an absence that looms rather large, because now it's DK Metcalf and, who else? I mean, unless D. Eskridge takes a huge step forward and, Lockett's absence, we'll see. But, I think the wheels are coming off on this one. Smith, again, taking a step back. The offense is starting to lose some of its luster. And then the defense is just kind of eroded with some time, especially in run defense. So, I think Seattle, give it by next week, they could be off this page. They could be on that third page that we were talking about early on. They could be at 17 for all I know. So, kind of a tough scene, and it sucks because Seattle's won me a lot of money betting-wise this year, and they've been a fun story. So, sucks to see kind of the clock ring midnight on Cinderella here, but I think this is clearly kind of the end of the road here for the Seahawks. Jets down a spot. Man, they battled tough. And, Zach Wilson, I mean, obviously he's going to be the thing we talk about coming out of this game, but there was a couple throws where it's like, all right, there you go. This was almost like what I thought Zach Wilson would look like as a rookie, where it's like, okay, you see some stuff where you get him on the move and he can make some cross-body throws and he can do stuff off platform and he kind of has that wow throw ability, and he can make big plays happen, but then he'll also make bad decisions and turn the ball over and miss some throws with some inaccuracy. So all of that was kind of there on Sunday. And it really sucks because the Jets really could have won that game. And if they did, obviously their playoff chances are looking that much better. So obviously Zach Wilson's going to be kind of the talking point. And I think if Mike White's in this game, I think the Jets offense probably plays a little better and they may even win this one. I think the Jets defense did enough to win this game. So sorry, New York fans. This kind of like Seattle with, the clock ring at midnight. I'm not saying that's happening here with the Jets, but those playoff chances, especially with the Chargers win, now things kind of get a little shaky down the stretch. We'll see. Maybe Wilson builds upon his performance. Maybe Mike White's able to come back relatively soon. Now, granted, broken ribs, I don't think that's a, hey, you missed one game type of thing. So I feel like it's going to be Zach Wilson probably for the rest of the regular season, at least for another week or two. So we'll see. Hopefully the young guy can continue to build upon what he did last week, because there was some good in there. Ravens down a couple spots. I mean, this team's just they're really not that good. Tyler Huntley, last year he filled in serviceably for Lamar Jackson. Has not looked like that same guy this year. It's been great to get J.K. Dobbins back in the mix, but even Baltimore didn't run the ball all that well against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL and probably the worst defensive tackle core in the league with the Cleveland Browns. So that's a little bewildering. But this team is just sorely missing a dude who can win on the outside. I mean, anytime you get Baltimore behind the sticks, it's just like we were talking about, playoffs a couple years ago, where it's just like you get Lamar into a 3rd and 10. In this case, it's Tyler Huntley. You get him into a 3rd and 10. And go ahead and bring out the punt team. It's just nobody can get open on the outside, unfortunately. Like when Deshaun Jackson is out there getting decent snap counts, you got a problem. Mark Andrews is great. And again, the run game should have been more efficient, and Dobbins can catch out of the backfield. All that's true. But this team, they really should not be this bad. But they're sorely missing Lamar, which sounds like he'll come back next week. But they're also sorely missing a Rashad Bateman and just another player on the roster that's not there that could be a difference maker on the outside. Lines up a handful of spots. This felt like if you were to see the final score and just take away the logos, I'd be like, okay, the Jets won a good, hard-fought defensive game. But no, it was the Lions who won this, which was cool to see them win a game that wasn't like 35-32. Right? Like we know Ben Johnson as the OC, like he's done a great job. The offense been moving the ball. Goff's all in all played pretty good. Firepower's there. Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's 7 catches on Sunday. He continues to be someone where it's like, whatever his over catch prop is, you just got to bet it just because he'll find a way. Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, those 2 running backs continue to be pretty efficient. So, and then Brock Wright, he gets the game-winning touchdown, 4th and inches, gets a little crossing route. And it was like the 3rd read for Goff, but he was just wide open, and he took it to the house. So, you would have loved to see, if you're a Jets fan, some open field tackling there put on display, but dude, the Lions are just finding this, and it was cool to see them win in a game like this. The defense stepped up. Again, Zach Wilson, not great. I get it, but defense stepped up and prevented Wilson from looking good, right? Hutchinson, more, production. Him and Thibodeau both look really, really good this week, which, this edge group from last year's draft class is going to be so fun to continue to track. Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, all guys who, obviously Walker goes number 1 overall. Hutchinson kind of felt like should have been the number 1 overall pick. And then preseason and even midway through the season, Thibodeau was the presumed number 1 pick. So all those guys who may have had a claim to the number 1 spot, like, what do their careers continue to round out to being? So can't wait to see, but the Lions defense stepped up and they found enough offense, right? And especially that 4th and inches at midfield. Dan Campbell, gutsy, going for it, playing for the win, not playing not to lose. And I love all that. So they're into the top 10. I mean, they're scorching hot right now. So I know the record's not as crazy as a Miami or the teams 1 through 8, but they're playing a great brand of football right now. And the defense, with some time, has been able to patch it up on top of what you've gotten out of the offense. And then we get to the Dolphins there at 9, I don't normally like moving up teams when they lose, but kind of like the Jets last week where it's like, hey, dude, you battled with the Bills, and I'm just kind of handing out, participation trophies at this point. And the Jets game was a 20-12 loss. That felt like a Jets-Bills game, and the Bills found, as much as we say this about the Eagles, the Bills can win in different ways, and that was the Bills winning a game against the Jets. And then this week, 32-29, right? Like the Dolphins linger. They stick around. They get some big plays. Jalen Waddle, does the Baywin touchdown celebration in the snow. How awesome is that? This game from the snow and weather perspective was insane in and of itself, but another time, another story. But, I think Miami, they showcased, hey, we beat you back at our place, and we're not going down easy in your house. So this was one of those losses where, moral victories don't pay bills, but this one kind of makes me feel not too bad about the Dolphins, and if they were to see Buffalo in the playoffs or a team like that, a Kansas City, whose defense has really been struggling, they may be a wild card team, but I think they could go toe-to-toe with just about any of the 1 through 4 seeds, especially if it's like Tennessee or Jacksonville there at the 4, of course, but even 1 through 3, which, Cincy, Buffalo, and Kansas City, like, those are all legitimate teams and some of the best teams and teams that are now featured on my top 8. So I think Miami can hang with all 3 of those squads. Chargers, Vikings, Bengals, they're all in a stay put here. The Chargers, that win just wasn't anything that was like, oh my gosh, I have to, recognize this. I have to change everything I've been thinking about with the Chargers. Herbert, 3rd straight game with a 300-plus yard performance. Engineers that late drive, gets him in a field goal range, and, Cameron Dicker takes care of business. And that's one of the biggest things I think the Chargers kind of figured out this year was like, Cameron Dicker the kicker, is actually a pretty solid option. It kind of ended their kicking woes they've had for basically my entire lifestyle. It feels like I'm 25, so it feels like they've always had that, kind of looming over them, but not the most impressive win. I will say the coverage unit, all in all, played pretty good. I'm mostly impressed with, the ability to hold, Tennessee to 14 points, 7 of that comes on the ground, or 6 of it comes on the ground, and they get the PATs, you know what I mean? But, for a secondary that's been torched a lot this year, against a bad wide receiver room, it was good to see, hey, at least they can hold their own against the Titans, right? And then the Vikings, kind of similar to what we talked about the Colts, where it's like, what do I glean from this? The fact that you were down 33-0 to Jeff Saturday and the Colts, or the fact that you came back in like 20, 25 minutes? Because both are kind of astounding, right? But I do want to give a ton of credit. Kevin O'Connell down the stretch, like when it was put up or shut off time, that dude was calling a great game. And Kirk Cousins, the new nightmare on a Saturday. It's like, technically it's an island game, but it's like the least elite primetime window game you can be given. And the dude makes the biggest comeback in NFL history. I mean, that's Kirk Cousins in a nutshell to me. But Dalvin Cook looked awesome in this game. Justin Jefferson continues to be a top 3 wide receiver in the league. Hawkinson only had like 30-something yards, but a couple of big catches, including that 2-point conversion late. And then, Thielen finds the end zone. So using the full arsenal of weapons, and especially while that offensive line is, not at full strength, finding a way to still be able to move the ball, put up points. Got to figure out that defense. But, man, to make that type of a comeback, that is insane. So I want to be happy about that. But, you were down 33-0 to Matt Ryan, Jeff Saturday, and the Colts. So I'll keep you right there at 7. And the Bengals, very impressive when you fall behind, 17-0, and then drop 34 unanswered on Tampa Bay. That's super impressive. Like, I don't want to take anything away from Cincinnati. I just think I like the 1 through 5 a little bit better. So Lou Anarumo, those second half adjustments, continues to be one of the best DCs. I mean, at this point, if he's not getting head coaching interviews this, head coaching carousel, I don't know what the guy's doing wrong, right? Like, he continues to be not only a great defensive coordinator in and of itself, but a great adjustment maker. And that's the type of dude where it's like, hey, if you're at the front of a locker room and things didn't go well in that first 30, what can we change? How can we kind of right that wrong once we get to the second half? And that's the guy I would want as a head coach. Then we get to the Cowboys. They're down a couple spots. Weird loss there. Jackson, again, first half felt like this game's done. Dallas is going to win it. Jacksonville takes a step back. Then the second half, that defense couldn't buy a stop, which was a little peculiar, but I do want to give credit to the Jags. Trevor Lawrence feels like he's kind of coming into his own here, so that could be a buzzsaw that can be hard to slow down. And then, that Noah Brown drop, he gets 2 touchdowns, but that drop is really all people are going to remember from this game, unfortunately, and it resulted in the pick 6 the other way. So not necessarily the perfect throw from Dak, but it's catchable. Slide down, first down, Cowboys continue to drive. But Brown couldn't hold on and pick those the other way. So I don't think this team is like atrocious. It's not like, oh my God, I have to change about everything I thought about with Dallas all year. But it does take a little bit of the luster out of this, Dallas-Philadelphia game this upcoming weekend, because it was like, dude, this could be the battle for the number 1 seed in the NFC. This could dictate who wins that division. Now it's like, okay, Philadelphia's probably going to win that division, but this is still going to be kind of heavyweight matchup at the top of the NFC. So if you're a Bengals fan, you're like, hey, dude, Cincinnati should be ahead of Dallas. We won, they lost. That should be it. Well, you'll get your chance this upcoming weekend. Take care of business, and then if Dallas loses the Eagles, who right now I would lean Eagles in that game. So you may well move your way in the top 5. 49ers with a win on Thursday Night Football, up a spot. I'd like to see that offense be consistent, putting up points through all 4 quarters, not kind of just vanish midway through, but 100-plus yards on the ground for Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy continues to look the part. He may not be anybody who's like, oh my God, that's Pat Mahomes, but that dude's running the offense at a pretty high level. And minimum, he's just kind of keeping along with the Jimmy Garoppolo status quo, which for San Francisco, that's fine. You could make do with that. So, and obviously, anytime you can get a win on the road, impressive. And if you can get a win on the road without Deebo Samuel, I'll be impressed. Good George Kittle game. Christian McCaffrey, again, 100-plus yards on the ground, plus, what he does in the air. There was enough there. And that much firepower was just going to be too much for Seattle to keep up with. So I'm glad that prediction kind of came true. And it really speaks to, how potentially good San Francisco can and should be. Chiefs up a spot. Scary game. For sure, scary game. But, if it was Chiefs 49ers right now, kind of a rematch that Super Bowl 2 years ago, I think the Chiefs would be favored. I'd take the Chiefs in that game. So even though Houston kind of gives them a run for their money, I'll give them the credit there. Pat Mahomes kind of won this game kind of in spite of a lot of other pieces around him, which is frustrating because that defense feels like it should be getting better, kind of taking a step back towards the latter half of the season, which is concerning when you start playing your best brand of football, right? You get some weird surrounding, supporting area, some turnovers, mistakes, all that sort of stuff. It was just one of those things where it's like, why is Houston hanging in this game? And I just kind of felt like Pat Mahomes was fighting 2 teams, kind of Houston and Kansas City, and the shortcomings that he was kind of battling there with. But, Pat Mahomes is an alien, and he can find ways to win these games. So, they're up to 3. Then the Eagles and the Bills stay put at 2-1, respectively. Philadelphia, weird, kind of a tough matchup in a lot of ways just because of what Justin Fields can do with his legs. But they hold on and start getting some chunk plays for A.J. Brown. And, I was encouraged by the bounce back for Jalen Hurts. There's 2 picks in the first half, and the second half kind of got back on track. Chunk plays through the air for Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, and there was some idea that maybe Dallas Goedert would be able to come and play in this game. Now it feels that much more likely that you're gonna have him back next week in a big game against Dallas. So good to see him, back in the offense, because he really was that, honestly, maybe even the second weapon over Devonta Smith, but that third option, especially on third downs, felt like there were times where they were missing him a lot. And then the Bills, awesome game on Saturday night against the Dolphins in a lot of ways. Dolphins played a good enough game to win, but the Bills just bested them. Josh Allen can be just such an animal, both through the air, but also what he does as a runner. Especially that late scamper in the fourth. How awesome is that? This guy's just a legitimate locomotive, but with a howitzer for an arm. He's awesome. Diggs, great. You got some production on the run game, all that sort of stuff. Tre'Davious White has his best game back from the injury, so that's great to see. The defense still got to monitor, right? Like, what does the pass rush look like without Von Miller? And this was a game where I think the Bills' defensive line, really underwhelmed me. I felt like that was going to be a decent advantage, and I was like, Miami's not really been able to run the ball all that well between the tackles. The scheme should allow them to, but they just haven't been as efficient as some of those other, like, Shanahan disciples. And the Bills' front four has been great all year long. So, what does that matchup look like? And really, the Bills kind of got bullied off the line of scrimmage. Raheem Mostert had like 100-plus yards through like 10 carries, which is crazy. But all things considered, even despite that, Bill found a way to win. And again, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with, comparing the Dolphins and the Bills and their respective games each of the last 2 weeks. The Bills, just like the Eagles, have such a good roster they can win in different ways. So, right, 20-12 against the Jets, totally makes sense. 32-29 against the Dolphins, totally makes sense. So, to me, they're the best team in the league, and the Eagles are right there on their heels. But let me know what you think about these Week 16 NFL power rankings. Who do I have too high? Who do I have too low? Who's your favorite team? Where do you think they fit in the mix? Or anything football related. If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it down below in the comment section. I respond to every comment, so let's talk some ball down below. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. It seriously would help me out a ton. If you're around here, want to see more football content, just hit that big red subscribe button. Again, happy holidays, everybody. Until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.